Hey gang, well welcome back. We're getting bloody close to finishing now. So we're week 6 of 7. And aside from a couple of little bits and pieces of jobs like, you know, bleeding brakes and bleeding clutch and everything like that, we've got the bonnet to do, which is what we're going to do today. But yeah, it starts and runs. So yeah, pretty excited. So today's job, or so today's episode really is going to be today's job, which is modelling out. So I've got a 79 series bonnet here, so a late model 2016 plus bonnet with a big hump. And so I'm going to cut this out and graft it into the 80 series bonnet over there. So there's a couple of different YouTube videos on it. I think Sam Isles has done it before. Sam Young has had someone do it before. There's a young guy in the ACT that I watched as well. And so, yeah, I'm just going to be sort of feeling it out and sort of taking the little bits and pieces of everything like that and just sussing it out myself. So I've never done it before. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out. The plan will be to cut, or I'm going to mask this up, cut the outer skin off, then undo all the little foam plugs and everything that are underneath, and then sit that on the 80 series bonnet, and then mark that out, cut the outer skin while the inner skin's still on, while the inner structure's still on, tack that in, and then cut the inner out of this one, lay it over the inner of that one, mark out where I'm going to cut. And yeah, anyway, it's a bit of a process. So I actually think this is probably going to take me the last 2 weeks. So anyway, we'll see how we go. Check this out. More mud from $1,000 Track. That place, honestly, gets in everywhere. It's all happening. So I've put on some weld through primer, just the copper stuff. You would have seen me use that on the EH, just because I won't be able to get to this part again. So I'm going to put the skin on. Now, this is probably different. So I've had a look at those bloody other videos again, and it's all well and good if you just want to put a scoop on and, you know, just for ventilation and everything like that. Problem that I have is I need to actually line this scoop up with the intercooler. So I'm trying to do some rough measurements just using the plastic molding that sort of goes in. And the issue that I've got is that, like, I don't think I can get this back far enough. So I think I'm probably going to be different. I'm going to try and stitch it like this, the outer skin, as far back as I possibly can, rather than leaving a gap in, making it go that way. I want to go back as far as I can, so I'll probably weld it right along the edge, just so that I can try and get this lined up as far back as possible so that it can hit the intercooler, because I'm only talking like 290 mil from the back of the intercooler to the back of the bonnet. So yeah, it's a consideration. Anyway, that's all dry now, so I'll throw this skin on and get it all tacked up, and then we'll start to think about what we're going to do on the inside. That's probably a bit more intimidating. Probably wondering, oh, he's already painted it. Yeah, well, that's how I'm going to leave it. Yeah, no, not really. The way I was always taught was to make sure you epoxy first before you put any bog down. And the reason for that is because it can sweat right? It's a mechanically, so it's a chemically bonded material, the filler. And so if you put it directly on bare metal, it can sweat over time and create rust. So yeah, I was always taught just to put a layer of epoxy down. So that was just a epoxy that I put on there. Put a layer of epoxy on it, and then I can go over and do all the filler work and everything like that. So, but I think what I'm going to do this morning though is I'm going to do the inner first before I put any filler on there at all, because obviously I've got some more welding to do on the inside. So keep all the heat into it before I put any filler work into it. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll go through and do the filler. Now, the issues I ran into, I'm not a great fan of this. Like, I know that this is probably the common way of doing it, but I've never really liked lap welding, like putting panel on panel and then filling it up. I've always been, if you on the EH, you know, you cut and then you butt weld it. But obviously it's a little bit harder to do on the bonnet because there's so many different layers and everything like that. So I guess that's why they do it, but I'm not a great fan of it. But what I've done is I've gone right up against the edge as close as I can here, and then I'll just obviously put a bit of filler in there, and then that'll smooth off nicely. These sides here, they'll smooth off nicely. Not too worried about those. The front is a pain in the ass. It was just shit. Now, because I've gone back that way with it probably more than normal, I think most people put it probably about here. I've gone all the way back. It's probably helped with that front rake, so you're not having to make a real, you know, vertical down for the front. So it's probably helped a little bit with that. But the problem was, the biggest issue that I found is these bends in here. In order to get that down, if I tacked it here, it then made this gap huge because it was all there. So if I did it there, I then got like a, you know, the tin can in the middle sort of thing. So yeah, I guess that's just the issues you got to run into. So I made a few little relief cuts just to try and get it to come down, you know, nicely, and then just filled them back in once it was down. But as you can see, like it's not, yeah, there's a bit of work to go to get that into a nice flat straight down there like that. There's actually going to be a fair bit of filler to go in there. So yeah, anyway, play with that as I go. But yeah, so I'll flip this over now, cut the inside out, and see how that's all going to fit. Update time. So I cut out as much as I needed to out of the 79 bonnet. So that's it there. So I've just taken off all the little bits of original sealant thing stuff that's there, cleaned all the edges off, so that's all ready to weld in. Now with the 80 bonnet, I wanted something to weld it to, something solid to weld it to. So I think there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can either cut that and then seam weld it in, or butt weld it. I'm just going to butt weld it, I think. Oh, sorry, lap weld it. I'm just going to lap weld it to there. Then there's a bit of cutting to do along here, and then same here. I'm just going to lap weld the back of it here, so it's lap welded there and there. Now in here I'm going to do a butt weld, so I've cut them to fit the butt weld, and then the only bits I'm not sure on are just these bits here. So let me put this down and I'll show you what I'm talking about. What I've done is I've roughly lined them up with the existing silicon mounts, whatever the hell that was, and so therefore I've then got it lined up quite nicely in there. Some of this will fit, so some of that I can just blend in, and I can maybe tap that down and get that
you know, looking fairly nice through there, so that's fine. That'll go down to that. That's okay. They're all lined up. This here, like that'll beat down, and then I'll be able to fully weld all that off, no worries. And then I've sort of made little cuts in here, but this bit here is the bit that's a bit shit at the moment. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. I think once I weld this bit and this bit, I'll then come back to this bit and I'll see what it looks like. I think what I'm going to do as well, just to line up the front and the top and the bottom, I'll put the intake cover in there. I'll bolt that in so that they're two together, run some tacks, and then I'll take that out because it's plastic. I don't want it to melt or anything like that. Not that it should get that hot, but yeah, I think. And so this is what I was talking about here, where I'll butt weld this, so that's a nice little cut through there, and then lap weld that, so then that will just go down there. Nice little lap weld through there, lap weld across there, and then yeah, it's just these end bits here that I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with yet. So I might even have to make another piece to sort of go in there. I don't know. I'll see. I'll play that out. Anyway, let's get. Oh, the other thing I did, I just put a bit of because I won't be able to get access to this again. So much under there, so I've just covered it in a little bit of black, and then I'm gonna, epoxy the whole thing anyway. But just underneath that, underneath the bracing there, so just quickly a little bit of paint on that. Just as I suspected, the day's getting away from me again, but the inside is basically done now, which I thought this would take me the longest, and it took me a while, but it actually went in probably fairly easy actually. What I've chosen to do now, feel free to leave a comment if you think that's wrong, but don't just remember, I'm not a panel beater. I'm just, just a backyard guy. I've actually gone with a bead of seam sealer. So you would have seen on the time lapse, I put down a couple of masking tape lines, and I put this bead of seam sealer on there. Now, I think that'll actually make it look factory. So it's going to stick out at the moment because it's black and silver and all the rest of it. But once it's in one color, I reckon that's actually going to look pretty slick. So yeah, just a couple of strips of tape and then a bit of seam sealer. And the thing is about seam sealer is that you can paint over it, you can sand it, and you can do whatever. So I reckon that'll look pretty slick, to be fair. So anyway, I'm going to let this, it's pretty much tacked off now. I'm going to flip it over. I'll start doing the filler work on the outside. And then I'm still undecided whether I'm going to put a bead of silicone in these little tabs here, or whether I put some of the foam packing that I've got up there that I'd use on the ute, sorry, on the panel van. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do there yet. I'll probably end up just putting a bead of silicone in there, but anyway, I'll come back to that later on. So yeah, I just wanted to show you the seam sealer. I think that'll actually come up pretty well. So we're progressing nicely. The underside's all nice and done now. I've decided, because there was a big gap there, right, I've actually just put in another piece of steel in there and just sort of epoxied it up, just so that I can get, I'm not putting as much fill in, right? As you can see, like before I put that in, it was probably going to be, probably a good 10 mil deep, and you shouldn't really put filler on that deep. So now all I need to do is really just a skim, just to bring it in, and then that'll all look not too bad. It looks dodgy at the moment, but as you can see, the sides are starting to take their shape now. I reckon I'm going to block this next one. Once this dries, I'm going to block those, and I reckon that'll be pretty good up to probably about there. I reckon all that is all nice and done now, and then tomorrow we'll come back out again I'll shape these, start filling in these, fill in that, and then start shaping all the front there and everything like that. But yeah, I reckon that's not too bad to there. Right, let's see where we are up to. So last night, I mean, I didn't record it, but just put a little bit of fill in there and undercoated all that. So I'll rub the back, or the bottom first. So I'll get all that scuffed up. Just probably going to rub it back in like 400. And then I'll put the silicone into the little doodles here. So just put a bead of silicone in there just to sort of finish that off. Flip it over and then do the front, do the top. So then my plan's going to be, I've rigged up a little rail here just on the hoist. I want to hang it up and do front and back, top and bottom in one hit. So yeah, I've got the base color and then hit it with clear, and then yeah, we should be good to go. So anyway, it's actually come up pretty. I'm surprised how quick I've been able to do it, to be honest. Is it workshop quality? Probably not. But I'm just a backyard builder anyway, so it doesn't matter. Isn't it funny what you remember as a kid? So what I was going to do is, and if we come and have a look, where I've where I've rubbed it back and that, it's cut through a few places and that, because the primer that I used was just a rattle can job, just a primer putty and that, which was really crap. So I was just gonna, because of the time pressure and everything like that, I was just gonna just put base coat on it and just run with it. But I can hear the old fella, there he is up there. I can hear him in my head going, don't be lazy, make sure you put a layer of another layer of primer on it, and before you go and put top coat on. And anyway, fortunately, what I've got, and I bought it for the EH, is it's called CF Black. It's a PPG product. You can do wet on wet with it, so it's an epoxy, which is what I used. I've used on it already, but it's an epoxy primer, and once you lay it on, after about half an hour, you can then lay the top coat on straight over it. So as long as your surfaces are good, which they should be, I'm not going to really lose anything by putting this on. I then know that the bare metal's covered, and it'll stick to the base, to the coloured base coat and that. So yeah, it's just, as I said, it's just funny how the old fella, he's been dead for 5 years, but his voice just rings in my head all the time. So anyway, I'm going to mix this up now and lay down some epoxy and then put some colour on it. Well, that's pretty exciting. It's all painted and it's come up pretty good, actually. It's, again, I'm not a panel beater, I'm not a spray painter, but it's just giving it a crack in the shed. And I think I really like the seam sealing idea. So just putting the seam sealer on that. I think when you're standing back from here, like, it actually looks fairly factory. So yeah, that probably added, well, that probably gave me a little bit of time up my sleeve, to be honest. Would you do it on a show car? Obviously, probably not. But, again, this is a bush basher, I guess. So, and then, yeah, that's the top side of it. All nice and shiny and silver. And you're probably wondering, oh, well, the rest of the car is Raptored. What are you going to do with that? Well, the plan will be I'll strip all that Raptor off at some point in the future. And just run it back to silver again. So that's why I sort of painted this, and then I don't have to worry about stripping this thing back down. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how it's come out. So I'm just about to put the bull bar back on, and then I'm going to put this on, and then we might take it for a drive. So yeah. Well, how good is that? I even got this lined up pretty much bang on. Look at that, lined up nicely. I'm glad I sort of went as far back as I possibly can, but yeah. The only thing is the bonnet scoop's probably not fitting as well as I'd like, but I can finesse that later on. But yeah, I think that's come up pretty nice. Looks pretty factory, I would have thought. Yeah, even like, see what I mean about the seam sealer? I reckon the seam sealer just gives it that factory look again. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, and the only issue I've got, so I'm about to take it for a drive. The only issue I've got is I think that power steering pump that I've got, it's like literally the last thing that I haven't replaced on this engine, and I think it's cactus. So I've ordered a new one. It's not going to stop me from driving. It's just going to be a bit noisy. But aside from that, I think we're good to go. So crazy to think this has been 6.5 weeks since I first started tearing this car down. So my time frame of getting it done in 7 weeks, aside from anything going wrong in the test drive, let's just fingers crossed we don't talk too quickly about that, but yeah, aside from that, I've managed to pull it off, which is pretty crazy. So I just want to just give a shout out to Hagen at Off Track Concepts. Without him having that time to allocate to me, just to even just field all the phone calls and yeah, allow me to go up and weld up all the airbox and everything like that. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have got it done in 7 weeks. So thank you, Hagen. But yeah, it's been pretty cool, So anyway, let's button this down and go for a drive, eh? I'm just going to there's a couple of mates that are up at Cobor at the moment, so I'm just going to go for a little bit of a drive up there and we'll just see how it goes. And the first thing that I've noticed already is the clutch. It's, you know, obviously it's a 1500 Newton meter clutch, so it's a lot heavier than what I'm probably used to, and it goes from the floor as well, so it's yeah, it's something to get used to. But anyway, power steering pump's obviously crap too. It does need a tune though. Like, it's booked in for a tune on Tuesday, and I reckon it needs it, because it's certainly not as towy as what the 200 is, but geez, it pulls differently than a 1HZ, that's for sure. The numbers probably not reflective of what it could possibly be, because it's still running 4-wheel drive, like the constant 4-wheel drive, and because it's got the 80 series diff gears in it, and the 80 series transfer case and that, they could be a bit higher. But in saying that, the tune that's in it is basically, if it was in a 79 series, it'd be about 200 kilowatts and about 700 Newton meters. But yeah, whereas what did I get? I got 150 kilowatts and yeah, just under 600 Newton meters. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. Makes its peak torque pretty early on as well. Yeah, peak torque's at about 2300. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked, to be honest. And I tell you what, it just drives so much better. Like, it just drives like I'm in 5th gear and I just put it down there and it just went. So yeah, I took a long drive just before I got it tickled again. So yeah, so I've taken it to complete twice. Once was just to work out that there was an issue with one of the intakes, so I upgraded that. One of the intake pipes, sorry. So once I've done that, so I've taken it back there, and yeah, Kane's put in another tune to just give it a little bit more of a tickle, and yeah, and now it's pretty good. So yeah, sorry, in terms of fuel efficiency and that, it actually is more fuel efficient than my 200 series. So how about that? I'm getting about 15 litres per 100, even with the power that's in it and that. So you know, look, at the end of the day, it's actually probably more efficient than the 1HZ too. So how about that? So anyway, yeah, that's the tune done. It drives bloody nice. Like it's actually really nice to drive. So all in all, I'm pretty stoked with where the build's finished. So I reckon I'll probably wrap it up there, and then the next episode will be a cost breakdown. So everything that's cost me to do the conversion and that. So I'll do that next, and then yeah, it's just time to go and enjoy it now. So thanks guys, we'll catch you next time.